I would say that the market expectation goes on value, So what is the business value or the ROI for your client, for your customer? Because in the end, it means nothing to sell 100 man hours if you are not able to solve a problem within that. Everyone was saying, okay, the small agencies will lose the market because only the big ones will survive this consolidation. Right now, you don't need software teams at 100 people anymore, So if you're using those AI technologies pretty well, then you don't need the overhead which you add with 100 people in an agency like marketeers, finance guys, and so on and so forth.
Today, we're happy to have Markus here, and we're gonna discuss how AI is transforming e-commerce integrations, data flow, personalization, and especially what it means for agencies, for software integrators, for developers, and for more importantly, for the brands. So Markus will give us a perspective as a veteran CIO, who's been running e-commerce before and he's running agency right now. So he has a perspective both on the agency side and on the customer side. So Markus, thanks for being with us, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Arthur, Patrick, thanks for having me. The audience, my name is Markus. I'm based in Germany, actually working as CEO of a company called Datrycs, which is a solution integrator for especially e-commerce purposes. And back in the days, I was working for a company called Divante. I guess the Polish audience might know those folks. Also early adopters in the e-commerce with the famous Kawatka brothers in Poland. And therefore, I was working as CIO from a company called Lampenwelt in Germany, which is an online pure player, and scaled the company within 17 countries and was responsible for the tech and e-commerce environment there. And basically, we're adopting actually AI in our projects, especially in the commerce, looking pretty sharp on the market, what's happening there, and how our clients can also leverage AI for their use cases.
Okay, thanks. Great. Markus, what are you seeing the biggest excitement around AI in e-commerce right now?
Basically, I would like to split it a bit up. So at the beginning, and if I'm talking at the beginning, it's 6 till 12 months behind us right now because the acceleration of AI was that fast, which I didn't see in the industry before. So the biggest excitement, I would say, was this using LLMs for, let's say, creating basic stuff like content enrichment, do a little bit better content on your website or optimized content for Amazon product page and so on and so forth. I would say this was at the beginning the biggest hype on that. What we're right now seeing is that the models are trained so properly and are getting more intellectual in that case that you can use it also for other topics like data mapping, especially when it comes to data onboarding at the beginning, or also for search and personalization, because the LLMs understand the context where you are as a user actually searching for topics, and you can ask the search maybe if you make an example out from the beauty industry, which lipstick is Kim Kardashian using in the video XYZ, yeah? So you can give context to the LLM and you can connect it with the products. Or also on the fashion side, when it comes to outdoor sports, you can ask an LLM, okay, I need a jacket because I would like to go to Scotland. And then the LLM knows, okay, in Scotland it's rain, but there's also no rain. So you have to have a jacket which is combinable to all of them so that you're taking the weather in specific areas or conditions and combine it with your product offering. I would say this is actually what I'm seeing coming from more generic and standard stuff. And again, this development was within the last 12 months, going right now to shopping assistancy, where you get the support for the user to make the customer journey even better. And also what we see in Perplexity in the US right now, feeding the LLMs with stuff around the product itself, so that the LLM is basically the touch point where you can buy the product in the end.
Building on that question, like how do you feed LLMs with products? Is there any official way to do it at the moment?
I would say there is no directly official way, which is, in my opinion, the best. You can do it. It's more like trial and error. There are some studies on the market where they feed the LLMs and check the results, but this is not an official documentation where you say, okay, you have to do this, at least here in the DACH region. I can't judge all over the world for the topic right now, But I would say it's basically like SEO was done in the days before. Yeah, you have to make the data visible also for the LLMs and make it searchable in the end, so that the LLMs get the context about it and then serve it also not only for the user but also as an API in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen recently a nice tweet from Dharmesh, CTO of HubSpot. He's been mentioning that we're in a need of something called like agent.jsonl or some kind of an extension of robot takes that we have nowadays. But I don't see there is a universal consensus around it yet.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, that's being said, I mean, the acceleration of that topic is so fast and so tight. Being on the point with all the informations is quite insane, I would say. And you really have to focus on the topic and just be expert there, I would say.
And Markus, talking about insanity, what would be the hype versus the reality? Because to be honest, I haven't seen like a killer e-commerce demo yet. I mean, I've seen some Zalando Assistant. I've seen Amazon Rufus that we tested with Patrick, which is, by the way, not so accurate still, but they're learning. But there is a lot of tools. There is a lot of vendors talking about AI. Everybody was composable. Now everyone is AI first. And what do you see as hype versus reality? And when customers come to you, because we talked about the broader picture first. But when customers come to you, to your agency with the real request, what was the reality?
Yeah. Maybe we're starting from that hype, which you mentioned, Arthur, and I'm totally with you. Back in the days, it was the headless hype, then it was the mug hype, and so on and so forth. And everyone was hyped by marketing up and down. Right now, it's AI, and you have to do something with AI to be on the point. But when it comes to the utilization and down to earth, it's getting pretty shallow in the water. Let's call it like that. Yeah. So there are use cases which are nice. If you look at the potential of scaling those use cases, like totally personalized content, then it comes to the tricky point. Yeah, let's maybe stay with that example. I can do hyper personalization with an LLM, which is not an issue. So I can pre-render or predefine content for each person and then basically blow out this content to my touch points. But the problem is, if a user is getting access to my website, I have to render this content in the front end. And basically, this is the tricky part where it comes to front end technology and the combination of AI and front end technologies, where you have to do the magic and keep the content basically. Yeah. So this is something where I'm looking pretty critical on it and would say that the operationalization of that topic, meaning using AI at scale, is actually not adaptable in the business.
Okay. I've seen companies struggle with something called real-time personalization, meaning that, in order to process and personalize stuff through the Gen AI today, it takes a while, and users don't spend enough time on the website to wait for this stuff to appear. So I think like real-time personalization is something that's very much what companies will be after in the near future.
Yeah. I would say the potential is pretty huge, yeah. But how you get it on track, this is a different part of the medal, because I'm just thinking about this real-time personalization. If it comes to content and you say, hey, Patrick is more like persona A and Arthur is more like persona B, and I need for every persona different content pieces, then it's getting really tricky. I mean, the products are more or less steady. Yeah. So you have this set of SKUs, which you can show in the front end. But if you go on the personalization in the front end, you can do that easily with an LLM to generate the text. Yeah. But it's not real time, like I'm accessing a mobile touch point or a digital signage and I'm rendering full time at scale this content.
Yeah, because things like A/B testing of the content, even if you have new inventory coming in, and you can utilize tools like nowadays it's like AutoGrid or any other that auto populate the content based on the images, based on the meta fields that you have, and so on. And I can easily imagine use cases where people just do A/B testing for specific segments, but making it production ready in real time, and to make sure that this content is really accurate and doesn't really affect your conversion down. That would be something. Because we've been also talking with some enterprises that said all of our content needs to be legally approved, which means you cannot do real-time LLM rendering, right?
I would say right now the showstopper which I'm seeing is really the real-time issue, So if there's something pre-rendered and then it's fetched in the front end, no worries about it. You can easily build, let's say, shopping experiences with an LLM, meaning in case of a home and furniture case, build up a landing page, choose all my products from the SKU catalog which are fitting to a Scandinavian interior style, do a little bit content around it, all doable, no glue about it, But rendering that real time in the front end is kind of different story in the end.
I had it's exactly I had I've read Kelly Getch. Hi Kelly, by the way, if you're listening. But I said like I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna so prove you wrong when he said when he was back in Commerce Tools that we're not ready for production ready assistants on the front end that are consumer facing. And I said with our demo we're so close to that, and it's 4 months ahead, and I'm saying like yeah he was right.
Yeah,
So I'm with
exactly.
you. I'm with you. I would look now more into the, human in the loop, backend logic, automatization process, those kind of things. This is my learning that I've seen after a few months of building assistants.
Yeah. And even if you're dealing with assistants, you can build really crazy stuff with the LLMs about it, So you can feed the LLMs with background information when it comes to home and living about styles, interior designer knowledge, and so on and so forth, and then combine products, which you basically did right now manually or over a recommendation engine. And then I can say, hey, here's a photo of my living room. Those are the color matches. Please suggest me products which are suitable to that. So this is absolutely doable, no worries about it. But doing that all near real time or real time at scale, this is something where we are not right now, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. And so if we can go a bit lower on the value chain, and let's start with data onboarding maybe in the e-commerce. You need to somehow normalize the supplier feeds, update product catalogs, make sure that AI can read those things. Anything in that area?
Yeah, I would say this is one of the biggest potentials where AI can help. And I would shout out the hypothesis that there will be no need for PIMs anymore on the market. So I would like to be a little bit opinionated on that, because I would say that PIMs are coming from a dimension or a century, let's call it like that, where you need interaction between people. So you get data from your supplier, somebody sitting on this data, enriching the data, make texts for marketplaces, for the website, generating some images or exchanging images with a photographer and so on and so forth. So it was a tool which was solving a business problem, which was collaboration and processes and enriching data. If you put that down to earth right now, you can all abstract that with the AI. That means in the end that you can use the AI to enrich your onboarding data or normalize your onboarding data, enrich the data which you push out to the channels, and you're not interacting with people anymore. You're interacting with, in the end, services. Yeah. And those services can also easily combine services for generating AI stuff and so on and so forth. So it's an opinionated view. Yeah, still in enterprise, there will be PIMs on the market. Yeah, but I would say that the PIM vendors who understood the trend on the market are actually in good shape. And if I'm looking then on the market of PIM vendors, I wouldn't see that much PIMs which are ready for using that, because then you need also a kind of PIM solution which is API first rather UI first, and
and the UI in PIMs is actually most of the cases it's it just has to work, right? It's not something beautiful. So taking this layer of abstraction out, I mean, it's like from what I've seen, and we've implemented quite a lot of PIMs, they're basically APIs for humans. They're just made like the ERPs. They're just made to work. They're not made to look good, right? So I'm with you. And I would really like to have Dietmar's perspective from Pimcore on this, maybe, because I've seen that Pimcore announced pretty early in the game. They announced the Pimcore Copilot, something like this. And so I'm interested how they envision that, because they've been experimenting with AI pre-GPT, I recall. So I'm really interested what would be the response on that punch from PIM vendors.
So if we're doing a shout out, then we're matching beside Dietmar also Morten Ness from Bluestone PIM, because I would say those guys are also on the forehand track in this direction.
Okay, Markus, I would like to learn a little bit about, as a developer myself, and a person who's been working for the last 4 months on AI with AI. about any kind of tips you have for the developers and for people who begin building it. To me, it looks very difficult to get into it. And I'm just wondering what you're seeing there, how you see, and what kind of teams and what kind of attitudes you see succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Basically, I would say it's still the old game in IT. You have to be hungry to learn new things, you know? And if you are driven by this attitude, then you also can adapt this AI train. This is topic number one. Topic number two is I would search really for a use case and solve that. Because if you're jumping just on the AI train and would like to learn something with AI or code something with AI, the field is so broad, starting from image generation over content generation over, I don't know, code generation and so on and so forth. So the playground is that huge that you can't focus. Meaning my advice would be, don't fall in love with an idea, solve a problem and search for some problem in your agency, in your company or whatsoever, and start using that problem with using AI. And then you come to the points that you see, okay, I need data for it. I need to abstract data, normalize data, store data, expose data. Being operational with those data topics, maybe setting a front end on top of it. And you're getting a vertical crosscut, I would say, of all the dependencies which you have, which is more easy. It's not super easy to get within the domain. So that's something how I'm always approaching topics if I have a solution, rather going fully broad, really doing a horizontal crosscut and understand the process from A to Z in that case.
Right. Would you say that people need some AI course to get into it, or they can straight dive into solving their issues with AI? What are you seeing?
I would say there are so many courses on the market from really brilliant people. So you can adapt the leverage and the learning so fast that that's also really nice to see. And it's always helpful. Yeah. But again, that's the attitude at the beginning that you sit down and dive into the topic and you're hungry to solve that problem. And I would also say that this shapes a new attitude of developers which are coming up, you know, because AI is pretty helpful to do code reviews, writing unit tests or whatsoever, which basically was done from junior developers in the past, meaning to be successful as a developer, even for junior developers actually, is getting tougher right now because you have to succeed the AI area and come to the point that you understand on the one side, organizations and humans, because this is something which the AI, in my opinion, can't solve. Understanding the problem from your customer, being able to talk to the customer, and then dance it down to a kind of concept, how you solve it. But AI is leveraging you basically by doing all the, let's say, manual stuff, which you did back in the days manually. Yeah. And there's also the thing on the market going on. I mean, at least in the DACH region or in Germany, we have a third-year recession right now. Budgets are getting tighter and companies are not willing to pay for people who are just selling time. So you have your leverage to yourself with tools like AI tools to come to the point that you are more efficient on that.
Exactly. So speaking of that, is it like, because the whole industry is used to time and material kind of projects. As in agencies, we made a success in telling clients that time and material is better for them by many reasons, and we justified it. And I'm not saying it's good or wrong, but we moved from fixed to time and material that became a standard. Do you see a shift from that using AI? Because, you know, is it like still man days, man hours? Is it still a valid thing, or people are expecting man hours discounted by the AI hours and Copilot and Cursor? What is the market expectations right now?
I would say that the market expectation goes on value, you know? So what is the business value or the ROI for your client, for your customer? Because in the end, it means nothing to sell 100 hours, 100 man hours if you are not able to solve a problem within that, yeah? And if you as an agency learn to, let's say, act as an entrepreneur, I have no issues by that because then I'm investing the man hours at the beginning, but I'm getting the payoff afterwards by being incentivized over, let's say, orders or something like that, because I build a solution which adds value for my customer in the end. Mm-hmm. So I would say this abstraction selling man hours for a fixed pricing in the end will not work out on the long run. Yeah, and doesn't solve the problem. I would say that there are many agencies on the market who did their sake on that to really argue with the customers about those hours and not delivering the real value on that. So this is definitely what I'm seeing. And maybe also let me add that as we started with the company and we're at the beginning pretty small, right now also say medium-sized, so not super big, everyone was saying, okay, the small agencies will lose the market because only the big ones will survive this actually consolidation. I would say right now you don't need software teams at 100 people anymore, So if you're using those AI technologies pretty well, then you don't need the overhead, which you add with 100 people in an agency like marketeers, finance guys, and so on and so forth. So don't get me wrong. So those are important roles, but you need to add those roles at the different scale of the company to, let's say, keep the company in running, and they're all pushing on your EBIT and earnings because they're non-billable in the end. So having is, exactly.
If you paraphrase Jeff Bezos in this new era, he was saying like your margin is my opportunity. So now your overhead is my opportunity, right? In the agency business.
I would like to touch a little bit on the ROI and how agencies work nowadays with their customers and how they evaluate the ROI from the AI tools that these agencies produce and deliver. Because typically you would see ROI after some time after it's implemented, right? So how do you evaluate that?
Basically, that's a good question. I would say that you have to show the ROI definitely, but on short term, meaning back in the days, if you start an IT project, we talked about ROIs after year 2, 3, whatsoever. Right now, I would say we're definitely on that page that you need to show the ROI within 6 till 12 months, depending on the scale of the project, of course. And the ROI can be leveraged in 2 dimensions. One dimension is top line, meaning adding additional revenue to it, or the EBIT and earning perspective, meaning just cost cutting something and increase the margins by it. And if you're not able to show that to a customer quite fast, basically there will be no case for it. And also this was maybe taught by agencies back in the days. There will be a, let's say, discovery call, and then will be a discovery phase, and then we come up with an estimation which is 6 times as big as the initial budget was, and this is not going to happen anymore, Exactly, this is how it worked back in the days. Why also customers were super angry about it, and I totally understand it, And right now it's really about finding the use case, which is that tailored that we can implement it fast. And if you're heading for the small budgets in the end, and you're getting that budget, then you're getting also credibility at the customer side, because then the customer learned, oh, this guy was promising something and he delivered, even on small budget. And then you can just increase basically the revenue share on your side by building more services or solutions around it. And then you're also you're not only a supplier, you're more like a business transformator, I would say, because if you understand the customer and really understand the problem which you're solving for them, then you're guiding them actively from A to B, and make them successful. And then it's again a no-brainer to invest in it.
So how would you recommend anyone on the e-commerce side willing to try to, tackle this whole spaghetti of AI when they're preparing some kind of a RFI, when they want to reach out to any agency to automate any of the process, or they would like to see what's possible within their ecosystem? How would you advise them to prepare so they can really get a value out of such a RFI on the market?
I would say really start from the business perspective and understand the problem first. If you understand the problem first, then you know the solution, because otherwise you will go out on the market, ask for solutions, and most probably you will be overwhelmed by somebody who's putting AI on his agenda, but maybe it doesn't solve your problem in the end. And this is something where you really have to be precise on your internal processes, structures, and the strategy, And this is something which is super non-technical related at the beginning, and where many customers are struggling because they're working within their industry for years right now. Maybe they don't have the technical adoption and being able to judge what's going out on the market. I mean, in the end, there will be a space for consultants, agencies, and so on and so forth who advise something with AI, But in the end, it's really about understanding the business problem. And basically, that's the same shit like we should do it for years. So understanding really the problems of our customer and then build a solution for it, and don't justify technology over everything else.
Would you say that costs of LLMs play a significant role today and optimization is an important part of going to production, or your observation is that they're manageable?
Well, that's in general a hard question, I would say, because costs of LLMs, depending how you use it, will play a significant role. Because if somebody decides that he will use an LLM on site, let's say it like that, in the internal IT structure, most probably the LLM won't be super up to date comparing with more generic models on the market, or you have high training costs for those LLMs. So you really have to probably calculate an ROI set as for that reason as well. Yeah. So I wouldn't scratch that discussion from the table, but you should really also think, is that really special what I'm doing there? We had some talks with German well-known Mittelstand customers who said, okay, we would like to jump into that AI topic, and we would like to run our LLM at our servers in the basement. And you're saying, okay, you're basically not that special, yeah? And are you aware of the costs which that will add on your infrastructure, yeah? So this is something where you really have just to broaden the scale in that case.
I'm with you. I mean, especially for the POC phase or understanding how your organization can benefit from that, I would just use an API, use state of the art, don't overcomplicate it. It's just there is always time to figure it out whether Mr. Hans should have it on his own laptop with Olama once you install it, or whatever it is, right? Because maybe he should have his own Mistral 7B that would solve his excellent invoicing stuff, and that would be cool. But that should be later on in the adoption phase, I guess.
Absolutely, totally agree. And you also have to say there are so many smart people out there on the market who are successful because they adapt cloud technology that fast, which you are not able to if you have your setup in the basement. I mean, it's always doable, yeah, from a technical perspective, but you're falling into other traps like scaling, accessibility, and so on and so forth.
Okay, Markus, if there is one thing listeners should start doing tomorrow to get ready for AI in their e-commerce stack, what would it be?
One thing, well, that's a hard one, to be honest. I would say it's, again, identify your focus potential. No matter if it's revenue increase, EBIT optimization, or whatever, define measures, how you are defining to be successful in that case, and then start to solve that problem in the end, So you build that case, optimize it, rerun it, measure it, and then go step by step and learning it, and then extend it within the company. Also within the company, you need the people who are willing to adapt it, not the people who say, hey, we did it always this time, or we have, 30 people in my team who are doing content and they will be forever there. No, you have to think about it, how you reutilize those people in the end. But always about focus, identifying the potential and measuring the potential, and then execute.
So I would say just start building. And that's the only recipe, because the learning curve is huge, as Patrick mentioned. The benefits are impossible to imagine. And if you're not seeing this firsthand, you wouldn't just see where the potential is. So learning by doing is the only thing I would say.
There's a second dimension, maybe from an agency perspective. Also learned how to sell it, because many agencies are trying to sell it over a tech angle. And this is basically that since COVID, I would say. Due to COVID hype, there was this mug hype and so on and so forth, and one was justifying just tech. Right now, it's also about the business, meaning what is the business value out of it? And there are so many technical genius people on the market there who are not able to sell the solution in the end, which ends up in the situation that you're not getting paid for your job, probably, because you have to be able to communicate that value which you are doing, and not on a technical way, rather on a business way.
I was there trying to explain to the enterprise why should they pay for tokens. I mean, no way. It's just like, waste of their time and your time and your time, because basically you should say what would they get out of it, and not explain to them how the tokenizer work, or what happens inside the embedding phase, and what happens inside the transformer. And you would say, so if the models get cheaper because the inference is cheaper and we can do. They don't care. Like, show them how much more they're gonna make, or how many FTEs they're gonna reduce, right?
Exactly, that's the case.
Markus, it would be great if you shared how people can follow you and learn more about your house's AI solutions.
Basically, you can follow me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm doing from time to time some posts and so on so far. Reach out on LinkedIn directly to me, and I'm always happy to do coffee chats with people connecting at events and so on so forth.
Perfect.
Cool.
We're gonna add a link to your LinkedIn in the description of this episode.
And the one resource you would recommend to follow to stay at the forefront?
Of course, it's you, Arthur, or
I mean the serious resource.
No, to be honest, there are so many new topics coming up where I'm personally totally impressed what they are doing. I would say what I understood within the last month was how Proofs.io is working. So congrats to those guys. What they're doing there, that's super insane. Combining all the AI tools from image recognition over LLMs, bundling it into a solution, and solving really customer problems in that case. That's super cool to follow those guys. Yeah. But
so it's
I would
Bartek and Zbigniew, right? From
exactly.
Proofs.io. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that there is the only source of truth where you should follow.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Markus.
All right, gentlemen.